Hey guys, today let's make amazing lemon mousse. It is light, fluffy, and perfectly citrusy. Let's get started. Use any glass cups to serve. Today I decided to add some fresh berries in it and set them aside in the fridge. To make the mousse, as a first step, hydrate the gelatin in advance. When using gelatin powder, mix it with about 4 to 5 times of icy cold water. Mix well and set it aside for about 10 minutes. When using gelatin sheets, soak them in icy cold water and again wait for about 10 minutes. And meanwhile, let's make the lemon curd base. In a small saucepan, add sugar and egg yolks. Set aside the egg whites to make the meringue later. When you separate eggs, ensure that no yolks are going in the egg whites because they prevent the egg whites from whipping well. So yolks create these lumpy pieces when they are left with sugar mixed. So quickly mix after they are added until evenly combined. And add lemon zest. It adds such an amazing, refreshing note to the mousse. Zest only the yellow part of the skin because the white part underneath is pretty bitter. And next we're going to add lemon juice. I highly recommend using fresh lemon juice for the best result. Add some of it first, mix well. Add the rest and mix well until combined. And now we're going to heat it up with low to medium-low heat. It's important to cook it gently and mix constantly overheating. Scraping the bottom with a rubber spatula evenly and remove from the heat once it starts boiling gently. And strain it with a fine mesh sieve to discard cooked eggs. Scrape off all the curd in the pan. And by then, the gelatin should be fully hydrated. So scrape all of it, add that to the curd, cut into small pieces. It's important to add the hydrated gelatin while this curd is still very warm, otherwise the gelatin is not going to melt completely. Okay, this is done. Set it aside at room temperature. Next, we're gonna whip heavy cream. So it is very important to whip it until it gets very fluffy and stiff to prevent the mousse from getting loose, and set it aside in the fridge until right before use. And next we're gonna make the last component, Italian meringue. In a small pan, add water and sugar. Ensure that all the sugar is wet. So for that, shake the pot and apply some water around the edges. And heat the pot at medium heat. Apply water around the edge once or twice more while heating it. And after you start heating the pot, also start whipping the egg whites with your timing. We want a very fluffy meringue by the time this hot syrup is ready. Toward the very end, swirl the pot to get the accurate temperature and remove it from the heat when it reaches 244 Fahrenheit. Now you can see that the egg whites are very fluffy like this. Continue whipping it at high speed while adding the syrup from the side of the bowl slowly like this. By mixing like this, the whisk can pick up all the syrup to make an evenly mixed Italian meringue. And continue whipping it at high speed while the bowl or the meringue itself is hot or very warm. Now meanwhile, check the temperature of the lemon curd base. It should be slightly cold at room temperature. In case it's still warm, you can cool it down with icy water, or if it's getting too cold and the gelatin starts getting thickened, then you can heat it up with hot water just a tiny bit. And also check the consistency of the whipped cream again. Oftentimes, it slowly starts getting looser when it's left in the fridge for some time, so re-whip it if you need to. Or you can also whip heavy cream while you are whipping egg whites. I sometimes like to make it ahead so that I have extra time to prepare at the end. And now going back to the egg whites, turn it down to medium-low speed when the bowl feels gently warm, and stop whipping when it cools down to room temperature. The meringue should be very stiff at this point. Add that to the cold whipped cream. It's important that meringue is not warm at this point because warm meringue is gonna loosen up the whipped cream. Fold with the spatula until about 50% is blended. We do not want to mix evenly at this point yet to make the light and airy mousse. And add the old lemon curd base. And quickly start folding again. So I often like to fold with the whisk, but you can also continue folding with lever spatula. I like using a whisk sometimes because it can really eliminate the lumps of Italian meringue or whipped cream more easily, and it mixes up a little bit faster. And stop when about 80 to 90% is blended. Switch to a spatula and fold until everything is incorporated evenly. Clean the bottom and the sides of the bowl to ensure you're not going to miss anything left. And quickly pipe it into the glass cups while the condition is the best. As a final step, chill it in the fridge to make it firmer for at least a few hours. And that's it. Bon appetit! It is so airy, light, fluffy, perfectly citrusy. It really became one of my favorite lemon desserts. I would love you to try it, especially if you love lemon desserts. I wasn't fully sure if Ray loved tangy desserts, but now I officially know she is a lemon lover just like her mom. So the amount of gelatin is very important for the texture of the mousse. It gets heavier and dense when you add it too much, and it gets softer when you add less. So I highly recommend using a digital scale to weigh to get the most accurate texture. And the bloom of the gelatin I used today is 230. Bloom is the strength of gelatin, and each gelatin has different strengths. The higher the number is, the firmer your gelatin gets, and the lower the number is, the softer the mousse gets. So check that number before you purchase the gelatin. Wrap the surface with plastic wrap or something else, or put it in an airtight container, and you can store in the fridge or freezer. And since this is a mousse, don't leave them at room temperature for a while because they're gonna slowly get softer. Take it out from the fridge right before you eat. And when you're making a small cakes with it, always freeze them so that you can take them out a lot more easily from cake rings, silicone mold, or to remove the cake film more beautifully. Otherwise, the surface could get very, very messy. And lastly, I wanted to share a little bit more about making mousse cake with this lemon mousse. This mousse is incredibly light and airy with minimum amount of gelatin because I really wanted to prioritize the amazing texture. Making a cakes with it is totally possible, but the The mousse cake may look a little bit sloppy when the cake is tall or maybe a little bit bigger, and this can happen more when you make minor mistakes such as a little bit softer whipped cream or Italian meringue. So I have 2 suggestions for you. First, you can wrap the side of the cake with sponge cake like this. This really helps to sustain the body without sacrificing the texture of the mousse. So it's gonna look like this with the sponge cake, and it's gonna look like this without sponge cake. And second, you can add a little bit more gelatin only when you're making cakes. And I highly recommend doing this when you are not covering the side with sponge cake, or you can apply boss tips to really minimize the risk. I'm going to share the suggested amount of the gelatin in the description so that you can take a look. Don't forget to check out other light and airy mousse recipes such as strawberry mousse and raspberry mousse. And if you love lemon desserts like me, check out other scrumptious lemon dessert recipes. I'll leave all of them in the description below. That's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy pastry a little bit, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.